The market was alive that hot afternoon. Traders shouted prices, children ran between stalls. The smell of roasted corn mixed with the sharp scent of dry fish. Motorbikes roared past, kicking up red dust. In the middle of the crowd, a woman staggered. She was barefoot. Her wrapper was torn. Her hair was tangled into long ropes. Dirt covered her face and arms. People called her Yedu, the mad woman of Edo Market. Most had stopped noticing her, except when she shouted strange things at the sky. But today was different. She clutched her stomach and bent forward, her breath coming fast. A deep groan escaped her lips. Her eyes were wide with pain. She was 9 months pregnant. And now, in the middle of the busy market square, the baby was coming. At first, no one moved. Some traders glanced away but quickly turned back to their goods. A man selling onions whispered to the woman beside him that the mad woman, no, don't go near her. A few young boys laughed nervously and stepped back. The woman's groan became a cry, a sharp, aching cry that cut through the noise. She knelt in the dirt, holding her belly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Help me," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse. "Mama, please." One old woman selling tomatoes hesitated. She took a step forward but stopped when others shook their heads. "Leave her," someone muttered. "These kind people can harm you." The pregnant woman fell sideways, her hand grabbing a wooden crate for balance. Her breathing grew heavy, almost like she was running but couldn't stop. Then her water broke. The crowd gasped and drew back. Some covered their noses, others muttered short prayers, but no one touched her. Through the blur of pain, she saw the sky above, bright, almost white with it. She bit her lip and pushed. Minutes passed like hours. Then a thin, sharp cry filled the air. The market froze. In the woman's arms was a small, red-skinned baby, crying with all its tiny strength. But before she could even catch her breath, another pain came, sharper than the first. Her body shook. She screamed again. A second cry joined the first. Twins. Her eyes widened as she looked at them, both wailing. She held them close, whispering something no one could hear. That was when a black SUV pulled up at the edge of the market. The door opened and a well-dressed woman stepped out. She was tall, with a gold headscarf that caught the sun. People knew her, the wife of a billionaire businessman in town. She stood still for a moment, her eyes fixed on the twins in the mad woman's arms. Then she turned to the driver. "Bring them," she said softly. A few men stepped forward. The mad woman tried to pull away, her weak arms trembling, but her strength was gone. The babies were lifted from her arms. She cried out, a sound of pain that made even the strongest traders lower their eyes. The billionaire's wife held the twins for a moment, looking from one face to the other. Then she turned and walked back to her car. The door closed. The SUV rolled away, leaving behind only dust and a mad woman on the ground, reaching out with empty hands. She whispered over and over, my babies," until her voice was only a breath. Inside the SUV, the billionaire's wife, Madame Gloria, sat with the newborn twins in her arms. She studied them like she was trying to read something on their faces. "They are quiet now," she said to the driver. "Good, take us home." The mansion gate opened wide when the car arrived. Servants rushed out, their eyes widening at the sight of the babies. "Madam, whose children?" one asked. "My children," Madame Gloria replied. Her voice was calm, but it carried an edge that warned no one to ask again. That night, the twins were bathed, dressed in soft clothes, and laid in a grand crib under a glowing chandelier. The mad woman in the market slept on bare ground, clutching an old piece of cloth as if it were still her babies. Days turned into weeks. Madame Gloria introduced the twins to her husband. Chief Benson, who was away on business when she found them. He was surprised but pleased. "God has blessed us," he said, patting her hand. "We've waited long enough for children. Now we have two." For a while, the house was warm. The twins, named Amara and Adana, were cared for by nannies, fed with milk from foreign tins, and dressed in tiny imported clothes. Madame Gloria often took them to the balcony, showing them off to her friends. But things changed 1 year later. It was early morning when a loud cry echoed through the mansion, this time not from the twins. Madame Gloria had given birth to a baby boy, David. Chief Benson's joy overflowed. The celebration lasted 3 days. From then on, the air in the house shifted. The twins still had food, clothes, and a place to sleep, but Madame Gloria's eyes no longer softened when she looked at them. She saved her brightest smiles for David. When he cried, she rushed to carry him. When the twins cried, she told the nanny, "Check what's wrong with them." The children mostly grew under the watch of nannies and Madame Gloria's shifting moods. One rainy afternoon, the driver was taking the 3 children to school. The car slowed at a corner near Idu Market. On the roadside, under a broken umbrella, sat the mad woman. Her hair was wet, her clothes clung to her thin frame. She was eating cold gari from a rusty bowl. Amara pressed her face to the window. Her heart tightened. "Driver, stop," she said softly. The driver hesitated, then pulled over. Amara dug into her lunchbox and stepped out in the drizzle. She walked up to the mad woman, knelt, and placed her sandwich in front of her. The woman looked up, her eyes soft and watery, but she said nothing. From the car, Adena watched, her lips pressed into a hard line. As Amara turned to leave, Adena suddenly opened the door and stepped out. She walked straight to the sandwich, looked at the mad woman, and with one sharp motion, crushed it under her shoe. The mad woman's face fell. Amara gasped. The driver shouted, "Get back in the car." The 2 girls climbed back in. Amara sat in silence, her eyes wet. Adena stared out of the window, jaw clenched. The rain fell harder as the car drove off, leaving the mad woman in the cold, staring at the ruined food. School was the one place where Amara and Adana seemed to live different lives, even though they shared the same house, the same driver, and the same uniform. Amara was friendly. She greeted the cleaners, shared her snacks, and always helped her classmates with homework. Teachers called her the heart of the class. Adana, on the other hand, kept to herself. She didn't smile easily, and when she did, it was often a sharp, teasing smile. If someone annoyed her, she found a way to make them regret it. At home, the gap between them grew wider. Madame Gloria's love for David was no longer a secret. Every report card was pinned on the living room wall, but only David's. When Amara or Adana came first in their class, she barely nodded. But when David came fourth, she threw a small party. One evening, during dinner, David spilled his juice across the table. Madame Gloria laughed and dabbed his shirt gently. Later that same week, Adana knocked over her cup of water. Madame Gloria's voice was sharp. "You're almost 10 years old, yet you behave like a baby. Can't you sit properly?" Amara lowered her eyes. Adana said nothing, but her hand under the table tightened into a fist. Months passed. The driver's route to school always passed the market road where the mad woman sat. Amara never forgot the sandwich incident. Sometimes she begged the driver to stop, and when he did, she would give the woman bread or fruit from her lunchbox. The mad woman always took the food slowly, her eyes resting on Amara's face a moment longer than needed, as if searching for something familiar. Adana still hated those stops. Once, when Amara wasn't looking, she tossed an orange to the ground and stepped on it before the mad woman could reach for it. The driver scolded her, but she only shrugged. One Saturday, the twins were in the garden playing while the gardener trimmed the flowers. David was nearby, riding his bicycle. Out of nowhere, David shouted, "My mommy said you two are not really my sisters." Amara froze. Adana dropped the ball in her hands. "What do you mean?" Amara asked quietly. David grinned like it was a game. "She said you are from the market. She picked you because she felt sorry, but I'm her real child." Before Amara could speak, Adana stormed across the garden and pushed the bicycle. David fell to the grass, crying. Madam Gloria rushed out, saw David's scraped knee, and without asking a single question, slapped Adana across the face. The gardener looked away. Amara stood frozen, her heart pounding. That night, Adana lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her cheeks still stung, but what burned more were David's words. She didn't say it out loud, but in her heart, she promised herself one thing. She would never let anyone make her feel small again. And from that day, her eyes toward the mad woman on the roadside became colder than ever. The Harmattan winds came early that year. The mornings were cool and dusty, the sky pale and empty of clouds. On one of those mornings, the school bus broke down, so the driver had to use the smaller car to take the children. As they passed the market corner, Amara saw the mad woman again. She was wrapped in an old blanket, rocking back and forth, humming a slow tune. Amara frowned. Something about that tune felt familiar. "Stop, please," Amara told the driver. Adana sighed loudly from the back seat. "Not again." Amara stepped out with her lunchbox and knelt by the mad woman. "Mama, are you okay?" she asked softly. The woman looked at her, a slow smile spreading across her tired face. My baby," she whispered. Her hand trembled as she reached out, touching Amara's cheek. Amara blinked. "Do you know me?" The woman's eyes watered. "My babies. Two. I had two." Her voice broke and she began to cry. The driver stepped forward quickly. "Oya, let's go. We're late." He gently pulled Amara away. Back in the car, Adana smirked. "She's mad, Amara. She probably calls everyone her baby." But her voice had a strange tightness to it, like she didn't quite believe her own words. That evening, as the children ate dinner, Chief Benson came home from a trip. He rarely joined them at the table, but tonight he did. He asked about school, about their grades, about David's new football coach. Then, casually he said, "I passed by Ido Market today. That woman is still there. Has she been in this town all these years?" Madam Gloria's hand froze on her spoon. "Which woman?" "The one people say is not well, always talking to herself." He shrugged. "I remember seeing her years ago, the day you brought Amara and Adana home." Amara looked up sharply. "You saw her then?" Gloria's eyes hardened. "Eat your food." The rest of dinner passed in silence. But later that night, Amara overheard two housemaids whispering in the kitchen. "Madam hates going to that side of town," one said. "They say the twins came from there." "From where?" "From the market. Madam picked them the day that mad woman gave birth on the ground." Amara's breath caught. She pressed herself against the wall, her heart thudding. She didn't tell Adana right away. She wasn't sure if she should. But that night, she dreamt of the mad woman holding two babies and crying under the sun. Two whispers. But Amara couldn't stop thinking about what she overheard. The image of the mad woman crying in the dust wouldn't leave her mind. One Saturday morning, when Madam Gloria went to a women's meeting and Chief Benson was out of town, Amara made a decision. She waited until David went off to play football, then walked into Adana's room. "Come with me," she said. "Where?" Adana asked, looking up from her magazine. "To find out the truth." They took a taxi to Edo Market. The air was thick with the smell of fried plantain and the sound of traders calling out prices. It didn't take long to spot her, the mad woman, sitting on an old sack in the same corner. Amara walked up slowly. "Mama." The woman looked up, her eyes lighting. "My baby," she whispered again, reaching for Amara's face. Amara swallowed hard. "Please tell me, do you know me?" The woman nodded. "Two of you. You came out of me." She chuckled weakly. Adana laughed, but it was short, sharp and nervous. "You are confused. We are not see." The woman grabbed her hand suddenly. The mad woman's eyes filled with tears. I begged, but the car went away. "I've been waiting, always waiting." Amara's vision blurred as tears filled her eyes. She remembered the first time she gave this woman food, the way her eyes lingered like she knew her. Adana pulled her hand back sharply. She is mad. She doesn't know what she is saying, but her voice trembled. That evening, Amara confronted Madame Gloria in the living room. "Is she our mother?" she asked quietly. Madame Gloria didn't look up from her tea. "Who?" "The woman at the market. Is she the one who gave birth to us?" The room went still. Even the ticking clock seemed louder. Madame Gloria finally set her cup down. "Yes, and you should thank me. I took you from the street. I gave you a name, a life. She had nothing. She is nothing." Amara's hands shook. "She's not nothing. She's our mother." Adana stood at the door, her face pale. She didn't speak, but the way she was breathing, short and sharp, made it clear her world was shaking too. That night, the two sisters lay in their separate beds, wide awake. For Amara, it was heartbreak. For Adana, it was something deeper. Shame. She remembered every time she had crushed food in front of that woman, every look she had thrown her, and now she couldn't escape the truth. She had been cruel to her own mother. The twins finished secondary school and went off to university. David too went his way, but the bond between the three never truly became equal. Madame Gloria remained the same, warm to her son, distant to the girls. But the twins changed. Amara grew into a graceful young woman, calm and kind, studying nursing. Adana, once quick to anger, became quieter. She worked hard at law school, determined to make something of herself. Yet, deep inside, the weight of her past actions toward their mother never left her. One rainy evening, after their graduation, Amara walked into Adana's room, holding two envelopes. "We got the jobs," she said with a bright smile. Adana nodded. "That's good." Amara hesitated, then added, "It's time." Adana's brow furrowed. Time for what? To go and bring her home. The next morning, they drove themselves to Edo Market. They hadn't been there in years. The same corner was still there, but the woman who once sat on the sack was older, thinner, her hair streaked with white. She was talking softly to herself when Amara knelt beside her. "Mama, it's us." The woman looked at them, her eyes searching. Then she smiled. slow, trembling, and whispered, "My babies." Adana knelt too, her voice breaking. "Mama, I'm sorry for everything." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I didn't know. I didn't know." The woman touched their faces gently, as if to convince herself they were real. "You came back." They took her home, not to Madame Gloria's mansion. The twins had rented a comfortable apartment in town. They gave her a room with a soft bed, clean sheets, and a window that let in the morning sun. Some nights, Amara would hear their mother humming that same tune from long ago. Adana often sat quietly beside her, holding her hand without saying much.